am your host, Mark Segovia, alongside my co host, Andres. What's going on, Andres?
Mark, how's it going, sir? Doing very well. Happy to be back at Noodle Time, man. Happy to see you back at the opener out this past weekend, man. And man, still dreaming about that pupusa I ate because that was fantastic, man.
Shout out Maggie's Pupusas, one of the sponsors that the Surge have on their kits. I think it's like the second, third year that they have them on the kit sponsorship. Some really great pupusas if you're in the Houston area. I think they're located in the north side of Houston. I'm not sure. I gotta verify that. But yeah, man, it was great to see you at the tailgate and at the game and stuff like that. Obviously, great atmosphere, a lot of good times. Great to see a lot of people that obviously I don't see once the Dynamo season is over. Catching a lot of catching up. Obviously, first game of the season. It was great to see a lot of the guys from the Surge, from the Texanian Army, and all that good stuff. So shout out to everybody at the tailgate. Shout out to the homie JC who was the DJ at the tailgate. He threw it down. A lot of videos of him out there floating around, of him DJing and stuff like that. So, shout out to him. He kept the vibes live and all that good stuff, and he kept everything really, really, really good, and the vibes were just awesome out there. I was out there collecting autographs like Pokemons, man. So I mean, I'm trying to do a big
You had
giveaway.
all.
I'm trying. I want to do a nice little giveaway once we hit 400 subscribers on the YouTube, guys. So obviously, with that being said, please give us a like and subscribe, tell a friend, and all that good stuff. We're currently at 368 subscribers on the channel, and we're trying to get to 400 as quickly as possible, man. And once we do, I got legend autos. We got
Yes,
Dynamo
sir.
captain Wade Barrett. We got the GM Pat Austin. We got Presidente Boniac Garcia. Oh no, that's one.
Yeah,
Uh,
there we go.
there we
Yeah.
go. And I'll be collecting a lot more. I got a lot of people up there. I got a lot of
Uh,
cards that I need signed, guys. So
G
Dynamo
Money.
Legend, if you see me,
Yeah, G Money saying that man say gotta sign them all,
gotta
pretty
sign them
much.
all. Gotta sign them all.
Yeah,
Gotta
you
sign them
had your
all.
fanny
So
pack full of cards in the pregame. That was
for
so
sure,
funny.
for sure. Yeah, man, it's something that I've been trying to do since last season, but I just didn't have a chance last season because I wasn't able to go to a lot of games like I would like. And obviously, since I was going to be at this game, I was like, man, you know what? Let me take them. And hey, I got three autos right off the bat. And like I said, I'm going to be collecting a lot more now. Like I said, it's a giveaway that I want to do once we hit 400 subscribers. So like I said, the faster we can get to 400, the faster these Dynamo Legend autos can be yours. But with that being said, man, game one in the record books, Dynamo 2-1 victors over Chicago Fire, braced by Guillerme. Um, Atmosphere was wonderful. Sold out the supporter section. The supporter section was wild. Obviously, those guys never let us down. Um, just a great atmosphere overall. Like I said, the tailgate was amazing. The game was amazing. Just the atmosphere. Nothing beats opening day when it comes to sports. Honestly, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, obviously soccer, stuff like that. You get that first game of the season. It's like you're filled with brand new hope. Everything that happened last season, that's in the past. We're focusing on today and now, and obviously, like I said, hopefully we having a more positive outcome than what we did last year. Andres, obviously I know you and the homie OSG. Shout out to OSG. We're in the press box. How was the view from that angle?
Man, the atmosphere was pretty good. Honestly, just nothing about the game, but more so about like the experience. Like you said, opening day, clean slate. Everybody is excited about what this season is going to turn out to be. Obviously, a brand new team, a lot of new expectations, but overall, everybody was absolutely energetic for the right reasons, and the atmosphere itself was pretty good. Honestly, the supporter section, the first one being sold out, and I thought it was going to be a sellout. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I think I got the attendance was over 20,068, even though it didn't look like it was like almost like full, but overall, like the crowd was there, and I really enjoyed it from the press box.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, obviously one game down, one W to go. That's 3 points on the board for our Houston Dynamo. Um, Just any thoughts on the game? Obviously, we're gonna get a little bit inside the game. I want to get your thoughts on the game first and foremost before I go into my thoughts. Just your thoughts on the game overall. Obviously, Guillermo being the man of the match with his brace and all that good stuff. Seeing obviously our new players like Borsa, obviously Halter, Guillermo. Seeing those guys actually get into a full game and really showcase their skill set. Just your thoughts overall on game one of 36.
Both halves that had completely different stories. I was
Hmm.
not a fan of the first half. I don't think anybody was a fan of that first half because it kind of looked like Houston was trying to figure something out, but nothing worked. Chicago was just all over the ball, like both sides of the ball, really, because like they started like pushing towards the first goal since the very first minute. Houston just looked very disorganized, and whenever they tried to build a play forward and try to get back into the game, pretty much nothing was working. And for me, it was more so a thing about, is the team understanding each other? Are they still trying to adapt to what Ben Olsen is asking for them? And there's definitely a few players, like if you want to get into that later on, I can definitely talk about it. But honestly, like that first half was just really disappointing. Not I was to say because Chicago scored first, but because nothing was working early on, and the second half was a different story. And I'd be happy to discuss that with you because there's a lot of complexities, and of course the goals that came out to that.
Yeah, obviously it was a tale of two halves. The first half was very stagnant, and that's being very polite from my end. Obviously, I think the first half was it's just one of those, like, I don't know if they were just jittery or maybe trying to shake off the cobwebs of the preseason and getting into regular season form or whatever. But regardless of the case, yeah, the first half, I hope we don't see another half like that again. In the second half, I mean, obviously they came up a lot more aggressive. The thing that I liked that I saw from the second half compared to the first half was I saw that Holmes who was our and the Nali were a lot more higher up on the offense. They were. I felt like in the first half they were more back and kind of pertaining to playing more defense instead of being more offensively minded. And I think the fact that when they pushed up and they moved up higher in the second half, that controlled the game and the outcome on that hand, and the Dynamo began to obviously gain more possession and obviously move the ball more more what's the word I'm looking for, more forward towards, more progress, more progressive towards the front. So I mean, obviously there had to be some talks in halftime, obviously to make those kind of changes, and I'm glad that Olsen was able to see that and was able to make that change during the halftime, and letting Ali and Holmes move up a little bit. But yeah, obviously McGlynn with the assist on the first goal to Guillermo, and it was a great goal to see Guillermo score to get off the score sheet, and obviously the second goal off of rebound, off of Ponce, off of a great save from Brady, to where it landed on Ponce's feet. Guillermo's feet, and he was able to punch it in. So a very productive day for him, especially after last weekend's half hat trick. I mean, this guy's on fire, man. I mean, you need a player to start off like that in the beginning of the season, and I hope it carries over to this weekend, and we'll talk about that later on here in on the show. But just aside from Guillermo and obviously I guess McGlynn, because obviously McGlynn got the assist. Who do you think would be your man of the match? Or whose presence did you like, and or who contributed?
Well, Gillimer was the one that won us that game, so he was definitely the MVP that
For sure.
night. And just going back to what I said earlier about just the story of two halves, the second half was just essentially the opposite of what happened in the first half because we didn't really record a single shot on goal until
Mm.
the second half started, and that is saying a lot. The other thing I wanted to mention, because You did mention about Anali starting a little bit to the back until he was like pushed to go forward in the second half. The other player to watch into heading into this game was Dwayne Holmes because like in the starting 11 he was just like set to be that Griffin Dorsey replacement that's gonna have to specifically do the Griffin Dorsey role that we have been accustomed to like go forward, create those plays, and just like stand back. And really, in the first half, I saw him struggle again at the start of the game, and up until he was told to start pushing forward, that's definitely something that I've seen improvement, and I'm looking forward to see how Dwayne Holmes like settles down into that position, assuming that the Dynamo don't get like a replacement anytime soon. But going back to the front itself, and and that is something that I actually chatted with OSG and Herman like during our Foxtrot game day and Dinamico specifically, but honestly, just the way that you see Guilherme and you see his how he was able to change the game in that second half, coming off a first half that didn't really show much promise. I feel like for me, I still don't think he's that type of designated player just yet. But but man, like you saw that first goal, how he was able to get the pass from Jack McGlynn, and how he was able to finish the ball, man. Like it wasn't your strongest shot, but a great striker, a striker that knows where to put the ball in the back of the net, knows how to put it in the back of the net, and he literally tapped it at the right place at the right time, and it made it look so easy. Honestly, like so much respect goes to Guilherme because obviously he was heading into the season with criticism because of the fact that a lot of people rightfully so believes that he's not a designated player just based on the other players that are around the league that are able to be game changers in the right way. But I mean, Guilherme could be ours, and like there's an 80% chance it's gonna SCP spot's gonna be bought down, so it's gonna be fantastic. He's looking very promising, which is great. This was my first game watching him since I haven't been able to watch the scrimmages back in Houston. And no, man, I'm excited for the season because man, Guilherme, he's not playing like he is a 31 or 30 or in his 30s at all. Like he's playing like he's 24, which is great.
Yeah, I have to agree. Obviously, a lot of weight comes when you come in as a supposedly designated player and stuff like that. And obviously, he carries that label as a designated player for us in the Dynamo. And I'll honestly look. The thing about being a striker or a winger or just an attacking option is a goal scorer overall, right? It's not just about kicking the ball as hard as you can and hoping to score the goal. It's about angles. It's all about geometry and stuff like that. It's always about learning how to get the ball past the goalkeeper. Because I mean, look, these goalkeepers nowadays are talented, man. They're long, they're lengthy, they have agility, they have a lot of jumping capabilities, and they're good, blockers of the goalposts. They save balls and save scoring opportunities and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, uh, for Guillermo's second goal, that shot that Ponce was able to get the ball down and able to maintain it and have a shot on goal like that. It was a great Jesus, I'm losing my mind here. It was a great shot on target for Ponce, and even greater save by Brader to stop that shot from going into goal, right? And sometimes it's things like that where it's like, man, you can do everything good, but if that ball doesn't go in the back of the end of the net, it's like a whole failure, right? And yeah, man, he's scorching right now. And like I said, yeah, does he he's not the typical designated player that you expect. Obviously, with a lot of big names that were rumored to come to MLS and still rumored to come to MLS, especially all the ones that we have currently in MLS. Guillermo's name is not up there with, like, obviously the Messis and the Pauls and the Sons and the Muellers and the Evanders and stuff like that. But look, at the end of the day, if the man comes here and scores and assists goals and helps Dynamo win, that's all that you ask for, regardless if he's a designated player or not. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a team sport, and obviously, I know that having a designated player tag on you puts more pressure on you to be more statistically satisfying towards the public and towards the fan base. But at the end of the day, like I said, if he scores 20 goals or if he assists 20 goals, I mean, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's 20 goals, right? So it's as long as him, Ponce, and Borges are able to find chemistry within all three of themselves, along with Inali and Holmes coming up to help them on the offensive side. That's all that matters to me. Whoever scores the goals doesn't matter to me. Well, as long as Ponce scores 11 goals or more, because I got that bet with the cesspool that we got for that crispy 50. So,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, like I said, um, great start for Guillermo. He's one. I don't know if you knew this, Andres, but he's one of three players in Dynamo history to score two or more goals in their first ever for professional game with the Dynamo. Can you name the other two?
Yeah. I believe it was Brian Ching and Ariel Lassiter.
Brian Ching with the 4 goals against our inaugural game in 2006 against, I think, Colorado Rapids,
Yep.
and then Ariel Lassiter with 2 goals in his debut with the Dynamo, and I think that was against the Timbers, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot forgot what team it was. What's going on, G Money? Just score them damn goals for sure. That's all. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Just score the goals. Just score the goals. But yeah, man. I mean, it's good to see. And like I said, that first half was ugly. That second half was a lot better. Hopefully, we don't get to see any more from that first half. But I mean, we'll see what happens. Is there anything that you would change as far as from the starting lineup that you saw this first game to the second game, Andres?
Honestly, there's not a lot of complaints when it comes to making changes to the starting 11. And that's just still assuming that Felipe Andrade it remains unavailable because obviously he was listed as questionable and he did not feature at all like in that game. So like it's more so about like if Felipe Andrade is back, he's definitely gonna be able to help in that defense. But for the most part, I believe this is our main squad going forward, and yeah, like it's more so about how else Dwayne Holmes is gonna settle into his position because still plenty of season to go, and I'm sure that I'm not gonna figure out the depth situation, especially in the defense. But we'll see.
Yeah, speaking of Dwayne, I mean, you made an assessment earlier about that he played a lot better in the second half when he moved up offensively. Obviously, I don't expect Holmes to be this great defensive player, which I don't think he's ever been. But just to be capable, right? Obviously, we expect him to be able to move up and move the ball forward from the wide end. And be able to help alongside. He's obviously on the right, so right behind Borges. So, for him and Borges uh, to initiate the attack from the right side, and to be able to cause havoc on that side is basically what I want to see. And obviously, when if anybody loses the ball up top, for Holmes to be able to go and hound whoever took the ball down, right? But I think obviously with him moving up higher in the second half, it brought out more of his of what he naturally able to do, which is be a distributor on the ball on the offensive side. Like I said, I don't think he's that much of a defender to start off with, but we can all learn how to defend. So I think that's just one of the things where I think I'll start off with as far as like especially this next game coming up against LAFC. I think I wouldn't mind seeing them pressing up higher, and I'm meaning on the wingback side with Holmes and Ali to start off the game instead of starting back like they did in the first half.
Honestly, this might just be the discussion towards whenever we talk about the game against LAFC this weekend. But honestly, I wouldn't mind that either, especially with the initial approach that they had against Chicago, because you could tell that they were just like holding back on purpose, and I feel like it didn't really feel like Houston was playing comfortably, especially since Chicago was getting into goal like several times up until they forced that error from Bogus. And no, like honestly, like for me, as long as they're able to keep the ball in a way that Ben Olsen wants, should be fine. But then again, I don't want to be in the situation where any other team can just do what Chicago did very early and stress out Houston, like to force them to create those types of opportunities for them.
Yeah, see, that's one thing I have to agree on. Like, I feel that the first half, obviously, I feel like the Dynamo weren't Chicago wasn't beating us. I feel like Dynamo were beating themselves more than Chicago actually beating us, right? Even though obviously Chicago scored that goal early or whatever. I don't think it was one of those things where I felt that the Dynamo weren't in the game at all. I think it's just one of those things where, like, I don't know if it was, like I said, first game jitters, or if it was just one of those things where where maybe they had game notes and they were like focus on the counter attack from Chicago and make sure you don't get beat or something like that. I'm not sure what it was. Like I said. But with that being said, I don't see it as the first half that the Dynamo were getting beat up by the Chicago Fire. I feel like the Dynamo were beating themselves up in the first half, and that's why they weren't able to do what they initially ended up doing in the second half. So, like I said, I feel now that they're comfortable with what happened in the second half. I feel like if they were able to produce that for the full game, I mean, I think it'd be a much more fluid form of football that we'll see on the pitch, and hopefully with a lot more goals, because obviously with the next team coming up, we're gonna need more goals. So, but anything else that you want to add on this match day one against Chicago Fire?
Well, the other big news, even though he didn't play that game, but he was featured in the bench for the very first time. Shout out to Matthew Arana, man.
Hmm.
Youngest player ever in the first team. 15 years old, man.
15 years
uh,
old.
he, he was he was signed to a homegrown deal. Houston native. It was announced literally the day of the game, and man, like it's just like insane to look at what he has done with the academy. Sometimes with those, and now like he's gonna be like, even though he's officially signed to the first team, we're more than likely gonna be seeing him more often with those. But there's a statement, man, because like if you guys are not aware, like he has been already called up to the Mexican youth national team, and has been one of the best gems the Dynamo Academy has right now. And just based on the remarks that Ben Olsen has made, like in the game right after the game against Chicago, and if you ask even the coaches from those, like they're gonna tell you that he doesn't play like a teenager; he plays like an adult already, which is great. I definitely look forward to see him play with those. I
Hmm.
hope he gets that opportunity with the first team that we have been really asking for now, because uh, obviously we discussed that in a few episodes ago. But man, just give him a shot, man. Come on, like I know, like it's a risk per se because he's still very young, and like he needs to develop still with those. But come on, man, like just throw him there, Leagues Cup, Open Cup, whatever. But yeah, like it's a
Yeah,
fantastic
I mean,
opportunity.
there's always got to be opportunities for the young players to come in, especially if somebody that young. Obviously, we gotta have games. Hopefully, we have games where there's a big blowout, and we can give the guy, the kid, a few minutes, at the end of the game to get to kind of run around and make stuff happen or whatever. The U.S. Open Cup games, the first couple of games when we're playing against USL teams, are perfect games to get him maybe a full half in or whatever, and maybe a full game if he's doing really well. So I mean, it's important to obviously find opportunities for these young players, to not just sign these contracts and be supposedly first team players, but to actually get on the pitch and get some minutes, man, get some professional minutes. Obviously, he's 15. He has a whole career ahead of him and stuff like that, and this is just the beginning. But I mean, obviously, it's one of those things where we've seen it with Seattle, we've seen it with other teams around the league that they give these kids their opportunities and they give them adamant amount of opportunity as far as like real minutes, and whereas we're only asking them to, hey, give them some garbage time minutes or give them some minutes on a lower tier game, against a lower tier competition or whatever. But obviously, we'll see. I mean, obviously, he's a player to look out for right now and for the future. Andres, let me ask you a question, man. What were you doing at 15 years old?
Man, I think I just moved to Houston a couple years ago, and I was in I was getting into high school, man. Like,
Man,
and I was in my JV. I was in the JV soccer team, I guess.
hey, there you go. Man, 15 years ago, that was shit, almost over 25 years ago for me, man.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Time flies, time flies, time flies, man. But yeah, man, congratulations to Matthew Arana. Looking forward to seeing him on the pitch, and obviously, and along with whether he's on those or the first team, and obviously, I'm sure he'll be out there doing community outlooks, programs and whatever and stuff like that as well. Uh, don't say it, damn it, he did. Yeah, and stuff like that. So obviously, shout out to him and congratulations on getting that first contract as a professional footballer. That's a lot of dreams come true, when you get to sign that first professional contract. So, looking forward to seeing him grow and progress, and hopefully he has some good moments as a Dynamo player. Um, G Money in the chat says, I hope Ben gives him a legit chance. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously, it's one of those things where we mentioned earlier, you know, signing the contract is a huge achievement, but now it's like, hey, I want to get on the pitch and I want to go prove that I deserve to be on the field with these professional players, regardless of what age they are. I'm a young man, they're grown men. I deserve to be on here. I'm not just here just for semantics and just to say that, yeah, the Dynamo are signing their academy players to contracts. Like, nah, I want to go out there and prove and show my talent and my skill set. So, I'm sure he's going to be real determined to show out and practice for Dos and for the first team. And let's see, hopefully Olsen gives him an opportunity at some point down the road in this season. So, but like I said, he's 15 and got a long way to go. So, anything else, Andres?
No, yeah, honestly, other than that, if you guys haven't checked out Foxtrot Game Day, I highly recommend you checking it out. It's one of the biggest ones we have posted yet. We do have tons of interviews, still your usual press conference and mixed zone interviews. But man, in the beginning, we do get some interviews with Wade Barrett and Ted Seagull. So like it's go check it out already if you haven't, because like that episode is packed with information from all kinds of people. So check it out if you haven't already. We put our tails out like for that game, and let's check it out.
Yeah, we were out there representing hard, man. We were in there
Yeah,
deep. So it's good to see the whole squad and everybody. Shout out to everybody who was out there for Foxtrot Media, for everybody, and obviously Andres, OSG, and Herman. The other guys. I haven't got a chance to meet you guys yet, but I mean, when I do, it'd be a pleasure to get to know y'all as well, and all that good stuff. So, but yeah, man. One of the things I want to talk about and the press conference, so I think somebody asked him about. I think somebody asked him about Neymar and things
yeah,
like that. And obviously the link with Neymar is obviously something that, as a Dynamo fan, you can only dream of, because Neymar is a global superstar, and obviously we know what kind of attention a name like that brings to the sport of soccer. He's obviously they both played together with Santos last year. They helped Santos starve off of relegation and stay in the first division of Brazilian football. And obviously, they seem to be real close. It's always good. Like I said, I mean, you bring in players like that because you want to get the connections, you want to get the connections to the clubs. You go to those type of clubs like Santos and big clubs like that. Previously with like Atletico Madrid with Hector Herrera, because you want to build the connections and you want to build the history of purchases and sales with those clubs, because you never know when those clubs can benefit you or whatever. But you know a lot of people now thinking, an opportunity, maybe it's a chance for maybe in the future Neymar maybe donning a Houston Dynamo kit. I mean, obviously, I know it's far fetched and it's silly, but who knows? We've seen weirder
Hey
things
man,
happen. We've seen weirder things happen in MLS. I mean, obviously, the one thing that comes to mind was Cristiano Ronaldo almost being a Kansas City,
yeah, City.
a sporting Kansas City player, which would have been super crazy. I think in another multiverse wherever he's a sporty KC player, it's a crazy crazy time in that universe's history in MLS. But just your thoughts on that. Obviously, what do you think about it? And I mean, if Yermak is telling Neymar, hey, the good things about Houston, who knows? We got a lot of Brazilian steakhouses.
Hey man, look, last year we signed a ton of injured players, so never say never. But if you watch the interview, I had to watch the replay because I was getting the mix zone while the press conference was happening, all the mix zone clips and all that. But for me, like the way that Neymar reached out to him after the last scrimmage, that he scored 2 goals, and basically congratulated him and jokingly asked if if he scored those goals or learned that from Neymar, and that was like so funny to me. And honestly, I just tell you the type of character that he is, and the things that he was able to pick up from Neymar and just being teammates. And in that situation, considering that they were in a in relegation already, trying to move up from a bad situation, but honestly, just the way that they have that connection still like says a lot. So that's so amazing from Guilherme.
Yeah, that's always good. So hey, fingers crossed. Look, I'm never gonna say anything negative about Neymar. I've always been a Neymar fan. So I mean, it would be great. It would be amazing to see him in Houston Dynamo Orange. So, with that being said, speaking of transactions, let's talk about a minor transaction that happened before the first game, and the Houston Dynamo transferred 225,000 in GAM money to New England Revolution for an international spot, which a lot of people are speculating are going to is for a new signing that should be coming up hopefully here pretty soon. Your thoughts? Have you heard anything? And what do you think is our biggest need, if we have anything that we need desperately right now at this moment?
I was thinking about it because I haven't seen. I don't think they haven't posted the new roster, um the new roster lineup. Or I forgot the specific word for it, but basically whenever they have like the full list of players and status in the roster, and also if they were internationals or not. I wasn't more so in the camp that if they don't have enough international spots, then they got one extra international spot for like halfway through the season, because this was going to be good through until July 13th, which is right around the start of the secondary transfer window in MLS. But honestly, if we were get a player, and I'm guessing one of the players in the roster is still trying to get a green card or something like that, I'm hoping it's just I feel like a wingback would do wonders now, especially since we lost some Dorsey. But yeah, honestly, just having that type of backup and that type of competition for Dwayne, I feel like it will do good.
Yeah, I get that, but I think Andrade is probably that person. I think Holmes probably backs up Andrade once Andrade gets fully fit.
Yeah,
I think more likely it's defensive help, because obviously with our back three of Antonio Carlos, Halter, and Eric. Obviously, Eric is a little bit on the older side of things, and obviously with
yeah,
his injury history, you want to be able to have a viable backup in case he goes down. The same thing with Carlos and Halter. Any one of those guys can go down, especially playing three men in the back. It's a little bit more strenuous as far as defending because you obviously got to make sure that you cover more ground than what you're used to when you have four in the back, right? So
And with that gam they have now, after the Dorsey trade, the remaining gam that they have from the offseason, they I feel like they still have a lot of resources. Not I'm not really counting any cash they can just like throw out there for the MLS market, but
yeah, I
yeah,
feel like I feel I haven't had an opportunity to look, but I feel like there's a lot of players that have already played in the league that have gone unsigned. So maybe I don't know if I can find a list. Maybe I'll do that after the show, whatever, of players still that I still haven't signed. Maybe there's somebody or a name on there that's intriguing. Obviously, we have those re-entry drafts that we had earlier in the offseason, whatever. And obviously a lot of players go through that process and don't get selected, but some do. And the ones who don't get selected and obviously don't go on to teams, I wonder how many players are still left available for clubs to pick up, on obviously with the fact that we have GAM available and spots available on the team to sign players. So I'm gonna see if I can find a list of remaining players, I guess free agent players that have played in MLS that would intrigue the Dynamo. But obviously, there's obviously with it being an international spot as well, because we could still be looking abroad. Obviously Brazil has been the destination of choice this offseason for Pat Onstad and Asher in the front office.
or New Honduras, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to maybe bring in another Brazilian player, but obviously we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's just an interesting little transaction that happened before match day one, and obviously when you open yourself to getting a new spot available for you, especially an international spot, then obviously a lot of things as a fan start going through your head, like, oh, who could they be looking at? From where could they be coming in? What position are we looking for? What position do we need? Do we need reinforcements in and things of that nature? So it's good to see. It's good to see. Obviously, a lot of this season is going to be a little bit different, man. Obviously with the World Cup coming in between it, right? And a lot of big name players obviously always being linked to come to MLS during the summer. And obviously this time will be after the World Cup where a lot of those big time players might be their last World Cups that they ever play. And obviously they're going to be fully fit and ready to go. And obviously they might want to come into an MLS situation where they can come in and push the team forward and lead them to from being just a playoff contender to a title contender, or being a team looking outside and to being a team being located and being in prime playoff positioning. So we'll see what happens, man. A lot of intriguing names are out there. Obviously, a lot of big names are out there. A lot of rumors. But obviously, one of the things that we still don't see enough of is the Dynamo being linked to those quote unquote big names. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Um, Speaking of, acquisitions, the Dynamo, whether you know it or not, sometimes it's kind of this stat is kind of hard to believe because obviously the history of the Dynamo has been one of not of a spending club, but one of a more conservative club as far as when it comes to transaction and money. But we were the second highest spending club this offseason behind Inter Miami. Obviously, you've seen all the new players that have come in from Argentina, Brazil, and things of that nature. The return of Hector Herrera, Borges from Cruz Azul as being one of our highest ever transferred players to come into the club. Um, your thoughts on that? Your thoughts on the front office and maybe even Ted Siegel and his willingness to spend money this offseason because look, you can say whatever you want, but the numbers don't lie. We are the second most team to spend the most money this offseason, and that's saying something. Now, whether or not they hit home runs with these players that they brought in is one thing, but they have put the resources out there.
They did, and obviously there was a lot of turnover with 18 players, not counting the players that were sent out of loan out of the roster. And it just tells you at the position or understanding uh, as to where the team was after the season ended, a season that we talked in a million times, but it was the first time that Van Olsen missed the playoffs, and the team really didn't really look like they were going places with some of the pieces that they had, and not to mention the pieces that were there since the beginning of Van Olsen's tenure, where they have helped go like to the Western Conference Final and winning the Open Cup afterwards. And honestly, like it was a little bit of a tough pill to swallow because obviously we talked about the names. Obviously, the big one being Griffin Dorsey, and just being on, just trying to turn a new leaf when it comes to just finding that balance or those new players that they know that can fit Benel's system. And in one way, like I was like worried because we're pretty much resetting again. But on the other hand, optimism because this is a new team. Anything can happen, and like even though we're bringing in more veterans than younger players this time around, I feel like having that presence of veterans and understanding what Ben wants, I feel like it goes a long way still. So, and obviously not to mention Hector Herrera returning, which is good for the season. And no man, honestly, like just the way that they executed in the market, it tells you a lot. And especially considering that they started very slowly in the off season, I think we didn't have like any transfers until like two months in, so or any like transfers coming in announced. So they had a lot of work to do, and this season has to show a lot of improvement.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think this is like the sec. This is the second phase that they should have had last off season, but they're having it this season. I mean, obviously, when Pat first came in, after the half season, they had the Herrera came in. We had the signing of Franco Escobar, the Arthurs, players of that caliber that made up the foundation to lead us to back-to-back playoff appearances, right? And a U.S. Open Cup title. And then obviously after when we lost players like Coco and Mikael and obviously Hector as well, that offseason should have been the next offseason where they should have gone in heavily and brought in a certain type of players, but obviously that offseason what didn't work out that way. And this offseason it seems like they went in and they dug deep in their pockets and they brought in players of higher quality. I like what I see in Halter. I like what I see obviously with Guillermo. I like Borges. He obviously he wasn't on the score sheet, but he was very active, and he seems very comfortable right off the bat playing in MLS. So that's going to be a plus for us. Once he starts putting that ball in the back of the net and starts creating a lot of opportunities for Ponce and for Guillermo. So um, I'm excited. Like I said, it's just one of those things where like uh, obviously it's just one game, but and overall at the end of the season we'll see where the Dino will end up, and then whether or not it was a failure or if it was good. But I think that the club is progressing towards the right way. Obviously, with the disappointments of last season, I think it put a lot of pressure on the front office and the ownership group to rebound off of that one bad season and to remind the people like, hey, when we came in, we promised to have resources. We promised to get the team out of the hole that they were in. They did that. Obviously, like I mentioned with the back-to-back playoff appearances and the U.S. Open Cup win, they had a little bit of a setback last season with obviously the late signings and or having no signings in the offseason or whatever. But they've obviously are trying to make it up this offseason with the signings that they made with all the group of players that they signed. It was a huge turnover, like you mentioned. And I think they're still not done, obviously, with what we just mentioned with the news of acquiring an international spy and obviously selling Griffin Dorsey for 1 million plus and Gam to Orlando City. So we'll see what happens and we'll see what continue to happens. But I'm excited to see what happens. Like I said, MLS is growing. MLS is becoming a much more difficult league, and obviously with superstars coming in and just players from all over the world coming in and being interested in MLS, the talent pool is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow, and the Dynamo have to understand that they have to keep going up with that talent pool, and that the team has to have a higher level of talent on the pitch to be able to compete. So we'll see what happens. I can't read this name. I'm sorry. 1999 cases. Definitely Pat did huge work this offseason. Looks pretty good so far too. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, the preseason, I don't really put too much into it. I mean, they went undefeated, which is great. It's always good to see. And obviously, Guillermo scoring the brace in the first game of the season. It's good to see as well. But like I said, one game up, one game down, and we're 3 points up. So that's great to see. And obviously, this next game against LAFC is going to be a big challenge. And speaking of LAFC, man, before we move on to the next game. Um, Obviously this is early, early, early. What's your expectations for the season, Andres?
That's a good question because I expect us to make the playoffs, and
Well,
and
yeah, but two
it's
thirds of the league makes the playoffs.
right. I was gonna say that that's really like a tough, well, really recognize or remarkable accomplishment. I'd say like in MLS because 2/3 of the league makes it in either way. I honestly just want to see us actually like win games comfortably because like last year really gave me that impression that the team was just doing the opposite of what they've been doing uh, like seasons before last year. And I'm more so excited with like the potential of what this team shows and the type of players that we have acquired already. And not to mention that we could be seeing a different team that is obviously playing a similar style to Ben Olsen, but at the same time, an exciting team to watch, man. Obviously, like if you look at other teams around the league, we're not really that appealing in the sense of actually flamboyant soccer or really attractive soccer, you could say. But honestly, I just want to see us win in a way that people can recognize us because at the end of the day, for me, I just want to see that team fight more than anything,
Yeah,
and that's the type of expectations that I have for this season.
I have two specific ones, two detailed ones that I want to see. Because I think playoffs should be a given. you know
Yeah,
it's like I said, 2/3 of the league makes it, so I mean it's not a really hard thing to do, to achieve. So you really have to have like a year like LA Galaxy had last year, where they lost their biggest player, and they lost a numerous amount of players to injury and stuff like that. And or or like what happened with us, where we lost our best defender, and two of our best midfielders, and our captain as well. But with that being said, I have two things that I'm looking for the season for the Dynamo. Aside from obviously making the playoffs, that I want to see, for me to kind of make it to for me to kind of see it as a successful offseason and season, right? I want to see the Dynamo finish in the top four in the Western Conference. That's what I want to see. I want to see them
that would be pretty
competing.
good.
I
Yeah.
want to see them competing with LAFC, with the San Diego's up in that top echelon of the Western Conference, Vancouver, obviously, and things like that. I want to see us in the first round have home field advantage, and things of that nature. The second thing is more of an individual thing, but I want the Dynamo to have a proven goal scorer. I want, whether it's Ponce, Borges, Guillermo, Inali, whoever. I want somebody who is dependable on scoring the goals for this team. I'm not gonna go as high as saying like, hey, I want them to be top five, but at least a top 10 goal scorer in the league, which at this time means 15 goals plus from an individual player. So I need somebody that's at the end of the season to have 15 plus MLS regular season goals, and I want to see the Dynamo fighting for a top four spot in the Western Conference to go in the playoffs. I don't want to hear none of this play-in crap or whatever, or
Please
fighting
no.
to fighting to play, fighting to get the eighth or ninth or seventh seed. Like, nah, we should be comfortably in the playoffs, in the playoff picture. We should be fighting for a top four spot, which would give us home field in the first round. And on top of that, it would be greater. It would be even greater if somehow we were able to fight for a supporter shield. I'm not expecting it this season, but top four for sure, at least.
No, yeah, and that is an assessment that I can definitely get behind with. If they are able to get to the top four and over, I feel like that's a big accomplishment considering what they have done. What happened last year, and really where they stand after a pretty busy off season.
Yeah, AI on the chat says I only saw the one game, small sample, but it looks like we have a bunch of the goal dangerous guys in attack, way more dangerous than Basi and the other little
No,
guys. I see a lot of guys with 12 plus goals, and like I said, that's I mean, obviously, like like when we had that season where it was like Basi, Kowalovic, and Blessing, we had three of the same, basically three players of the same type, the same physique, right? And and those guys came in, they were doing the deal. I mean, none of them got to double digits or anything like that, but like but the fact that we have more size now, more physique up front, and especially with Borges is huge, man. You know, and Guillermo, he's a tall player with speed, and then Ponce is built. Ponce is a thick number nine. That guy will tackle. That guy will tackle you and move you out the way if you don't get out of his way. So, like I said, I agree with you. Like, even though I mentioned that I want us to have one proven goal scorer as far as like somebody that I think should finish with 15 or more goals. But realistically speaking, I can see what 1999 is saying as well. We should be able to have multiple goal scorers in the double digits,
no,
especially with the money spent on Borges and obviously with the hot start that Guillermo has had. You know, there should be no reason why we don't have multiple players in double digit goals this season. So we'll see what happens with that. On Adrian comes in here, says top four is challenging because so many other teams boosted their squad this year too. But as long as we have a strong home game record, I'm happy. That's another thing. Look, last season was our complete worst outing as a home team ever in Dynamo history. So
no,
so what that means to me, there's only one way to go, and that's up, right? And obviously, home has always been where the points are for the Dynamo in Dynamo history. And but like I said, the Dynamo has spent the money. They're spending, and it looks like they're going to continue to spend. So while top four might be a lofty goal, but it should be a goal that they should be looking at. Now, if they finish fifth place, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, this is disappointment and this and that, whatever. If they finish fifth place, sixth place, and it was like a goal differential thing or whatever, or a tiebreaker thing, it's still a successful season in my opinion, right? But like I said, but I want them fighting the LAFCs, the San Diego's, the Vancouvers. I don't want them battling with Frisco and Austin FC for playing. Like that's not
no.
what I want. So that's why sometimes you have to shoot for the stars sometimes, man, and hope you land on the moon. So that's the way I look at it.
And you have to with the money that was spent too and the expectations. But yeah, like I do agree that we do have enough talent to just have like double digit goals, not just for one player, which has
Yeah,
been the trend lately, but really everybody that has to contribute to wins.
for sure. Now let's get to the final topic of today's show, and that's this Saturday against LAFC at home. Son Buganda just signed a new DP deal. LAFC coming off a 3-0 thrashing of defending champions Leo Messi and Inter Miami. On Tuesday, coming off a nice little win over Real España of Honduras to advance in the Champions Cup tournament. Um, the starters only play like 50 minutes, but I mean, they didn't even have to play at all, to be honest, if it was up to me. But so LAFC will be coming in fresh with their starters, with their star players, looking to continue domination that they have been doing, obviously with the Champions Cup in the beginning of MLS season. Andres, let me ask you this: um, LAFC has always been a scary foe. LAFC has always been one of those top echelon clubs in MLS since its beginning with since it started in the league. They have big name players, big time players. They have players that can take over the games by themselves and can win the games by themselves. What are your predictions for this game, and what are your thoughts as far as LAFC coming in as they're coming in steaming hot?
Honestly, now looking at the last two results from LAFC, like you can still understand how dangerous LAFC is because they are coming in with a team that has been like consistently stacked and highly competitive roster that has been going to playoffs for a very long time. Honestly, like this is a team and it's going to be a much that's going to provide a much bigger test towards the Dynamo compared to Chicago because Chicago is a good team, but LAFC is one of the top teams in the Western Conference for a reason, and also because they have enough investment to put into the squad. Uh, and obviously, of all the names that you can just provide, they have like they've already Eustachio, like one of the best Canadian players they have right now. On top of the fact that they still have Huming Son from last year. They have Huming Son, by the way, and my fellow Venezuelan David Martinez, which has been like an absolute player for LAFC. Like this is gonna be a test against Dynamo, like not just offensively but also defensively. I feel like it's gonna come down to how the Dynamo are gonna stand up to LAFC because they're gonna be running all over the field looking for any nook and cranny to get through to Dynamo and just like bulldoze them as soon as possible because they can do that. They've been able to do that against certain opponents, and this is gonna be the biggest test for Dynamo. Obviously, it's the second game of the season, but this is the game that they have to prove themselves compared against Chicago. But my prediction, I feel like it's gonna be a high scoring draw. I'd say 2-2.
Yeah, you know what? I like this type of opportunity this early in the season. You know, LASC obviously have been playing competitively a little bit longer than Dynamo because of obviously their participation with the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But I like this. I like this opportunity that comes in for the Dynamo on match day two. You know, just to kind of see where they're at. You know, like this is a huge game. This is a big game. Don't let nobody tell you anything different. You know, it might be match day two. Obviously, this game has no indication of whether or not we're going to be a playoff team or not. It doesn't show any indication of whether or not we're a good team or a bad team. It's just a big game because you know you're going against one of the premier clubs in MLS. You know, LAFC never fails as far as showing out and showcasing themselves for the league and everything else. Obviously, they didn't have a busy offseason. The biggest transaction was Marco Sant. I forgot who the Santos being a new coach, right?
Marco Santos, yeah.
Yeah, being a new coach for LAFC, that was basically their biggest move this offseason, replacing I'm forgetting his name, but the ex head coach. But like I said, Borunga was being said to be sold to a Brazilian club, but obviously with a brand new DP deal, that's no longer in the transfer window. So I mean, he seems to be settled in to stay on with LAFC for a long while. The guy obviously scores goals and wins trophies for LAFC. So that's a dominant presence there. Huming Sun, obviously we know what he is capable of. One of the uh, greatest acquisitions that MLS has brought in the since its existence. A Very, 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 very dynamic player who can score, who can distribute, who can dummy. Just human son. Obviously, I'm an Arsenal fan. For those who don't know, him being a Spurs fan, like for me to like a Spurs player, he has to have some type of special talent, and he's always been that man. So, you know, um, it'll be great to see. I expect the stadium to be sold out. Honestly, in my opinion,
Support
um,
section is already sold out, and
yeah,
we're
supporter section is already
like
sold
2 days
out.
out.
So yeah, so I mean, it's a huge test, but I don't mind a huge test early on in the season. Because obviously, you said you expect a high scoring draw, 2-2 draw, which is a great, great, great effort from the Dynamo if that happens to be the case. But if the Dynamo somehow are able to pull off the win, that's a huge feather in their cap
Huge win,
to
yeah.
to 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 uh to start off the season, especially going undefeated back to back weeks at home to start off the season. That's just obviously, like I said, to be a great team, you have to gather all the points that you can at home. You know, the road points are the golden points, which I mentioned all last season and stuff like that. But the home points are the foundation to get you to the playoffs, and the road points that you make are the golden points that help you determine whether or not you're just a pretender or a contender. So, um, my opinion, I'm gonna be optimistic, man, because
Oh
I
yeah,
like the second half Dynamo that I saw, and I think that Guillermo, Halter, even Hector Herrera, who didn't see any minutes in match day one, I think he's probably gonna see his first minutes of the season this second game. I think with that group of players that you have, with that level of expertise and veteran leadership, I think that the Dynamo are gonna pull off a win. And I think it's gonna be a 3-2 game. 3-2 game.
that'll be pretty fun. Yeah,
Uh, Now, what I would like to see is Borges get it off
get a
against
goal, please. Yeah,
get it off against his former club. That would be amazing.
yeah.
That would be that would be a great story to write. So I'm gonna go 3-2. I'm gonna say Borges does score one of the goals. I think Ezekiel Ponce scores one of the goals, and I'm gonna say my favorite little German Inali scores one of the goals. Andres, you said 2-2. Who scores the goals for you?
Bro, I'm gonna say it, and you think I know what I'm about to say? Guillermo Reyes.
Another brace?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Wow. Oh man, you know what? If goes another brace back to back weeks, I might have to think about getting a kit, because usually
Yeah,
I get my own customization on my put my name on the back, but I might have to do it if Getterman does back to back braces.
yeah,
Uh, G Money says me and Mark thinking the same. Okay, for sure, for sure, for sure. Um, yeah, I said 3-2. I think he said 3-2 in the chat as well. You said 2-2. I want to see 99 says I want to see Borges score a bunch for sure. Especially like I said, what I mentioned earlier with Guillermo and him being a DP player. When you carry that tag, you have a responsibility that comes in with it, right? Borges is a DP as well. We can't forget that, and he's an actual DP, not like Guillermo who if the right player comes along, we can buy his contract down and make him a high TAM player. Borges is a DP right alongside Ponce. Those are our true two DPs, you know. And obviously, Borges has, a lot of history with LAFC and things like that. So, and obviously, we want to see him contribute as quickly as possible and score as many goals as possible. So, we'll see what happens. Any thoughts as far as LAFC? Anything else that you want to add to that, to the upcoming game against LAFC this Saturday before we head on out?
it's gonna be insane. Honestly, like just the fact that we're having some of the bigger games already at the start of the season tells a lot, and this is gonna be the path for Dynamo going forward. So they better be ready. This is gonna be the biggest game yet.
Yeah, I mean, I got to watch a little bit of the replay on the Miami. I watched a little bit of the highlights of the Inter Miami LAFC game, and to be honest, man, dude, LAFC just looked they dominated.
Yeah,
they dominated. It was in front of what 75,000 people. The atmosphere was just crazy. Obviously, Inter Miami's coming in with with new players and stuff like that. They lost players like Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets, and obviously to replace two legends like that is a hard deal to do. But I mean, but obviously Miami, like we said earlier, spent the most money in offseason to replace them, and they brought in fabulous players, good players that can help them achieve maybe going back to back. Who knows? But on that night, LAFC looked like they were the champions. They looked like, hey, like you might be the champions, but this season might be our season, and who knows? LAFC is always one of those clubs that's always up there. Sam comes in. Who is Borges? Maybe Oh, bogus.
Yeah,
Bo-
bogus. Yeah, I think yeah they were referring to bogus, but yeah.
yeah. Saludos to Bo. Shout out to Presidente
Shout out to
Andres. What's
Sam,
going
yes
on,
sir.
guys? Appreciate you. Appreciate you. But yeah, man, it's gonna be fun. Like I said, a huge test is Saturday. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to see the stadium packed, and all that great stuff. And obviously, with everything said, Andres, unless there's anything you wanna add to it, let the people know where they can find us.
Yeah, just before we head out, I was gonna talk about Dynamo Dose
Oh, that's right.
because they
Sorry
do
about that, bud.
have. No, it's all good. They their season actually begins this weekend. It's gonna be back home against Colorado Rapids too, and as always, they're gonna be playing at Sabercat Stadium. So get your free tickets in the Dynamo website. It's gonna be a 6 p.m. kickoff. And one thing to note as a change for this season, so all the games are gonna be streaming on YouTube now. I don't believe they're going to be going back to Apple TV as previous seasons. So you guys are going to be able to watch all the games without an Apple TV account. So that's good, and you're going to be able to see it in any device, which is great. So we do have a very exciting team still. Obviously, we're going to see Matthew Arana either way, regardless of how you see it. And on top of the academy players that are still featured. So I'm looking forward to it. They haven't really announced a roster yet. They usually just announce that roster or just the main lineup as soon as the first day. So I'm looking forward to it. Uh, Obviously, those that missed out on playoffs for the first time last year in their existence, this is going to be their fourth season. So it's gonna be interesting. So we'll see how it goes. And they have the entire month of March. They're going to be playing at Sabercat Stadium. So if you can make it to that game, they're going to be back home. Usually every Sunday or so. They don't play on Saturdays. Usually they usually just play either during the week or Sundays. So obviously get your tickets if you're able to go. It's a good experience. Go watch the Dynamo Future and yeah, go those man. Looking forward to you guys. Um, and yeah, that obviously dynamicfoxtrot.com. That's the main website. You're going to be seeing all of our content in one place. If you want to watch or listen to any podcast episodes, our Fox in the Box articles, and anything regarding Dynamo Dash, those everything's going to be in that website. So dynamicfoxtrot.com. Make sure you have it saved to your browser or bookmark it either way. Obviously, if you're watching this on Foxtrot TV, thank you so much for getting into the chat. Sam, of course, G Money, Al, 1999, everybody that has been engaging over the course of the night. Adrian Rodriguez, 9727, shout out to you. And everybody that's been tuning in live now on X. So we do appreciate the support either on YouTube or X, as we now are streaming live in those two places. And any podcast platform you're listening to after the show airs, we do appreciate the support. Make sure you are subscribed to that podcast platform and giving us a rating, which helps a lot. And of course, if you're on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed and liking our videos. As soon as we hit 400, like Mark said, we're going to be doing that giveaway. So make sure you are uh, subscribed and make sure you to tell your friends about us because we are growing slowly. And we do appreciate the support everybody has been giving to us over the course of the past few seasons. So we still got lots for you guys. Obviously, the season's starting, but now we got Dash coming up. They'll starting this weekend, and man, it's gonna get crazy. So Thank you guys again, and I don't know, man. Looking forward to this year.
Yeah, for sure, guys. I always, like I said, and like Andres mentioned, thank you again for the support. Start off the 2026 season, starting off with a bang with a W. We're looking forward to being with you along the way for the whole season and everything else that goes on with the Dynamo. Obviously, with the Dash, with Dash Dispatch and OSG. For those Spanish speaking people with Dinamico con Hermin. And obviously Dino Dose starting off this month as well. Shout out to the young pups, and hopefully the future of the Dynamo and all that good stuff. And like I said, guys, help us get to 400 subscribers in YouTube. We're only a couple, 30 or so
Yeah.
subs away. So, the faster we get there, the more giveaways we can do. Like I said, 400 subs, I'm going to have a collection of autographs from Dynamo Legends that I'm going to hand out, that I'm going to give out to, depending on how many I get, one or two lucky subscribers of us. So, I mean, looking forward to that, guys. Like I said, I got a bunch of Dynamo stuff. I want to give this shit away, you know,
Hmm.
especially to people who, especially to you guys who support us and who are here with us and engage with us as well, So, shout out to you guys because without you guys, obviously, there's no us. We love to do this. We don't get paid or anything like that. We just do this for the love of the Dynamo and the love of the game.
For
So,
love of the
you
game, man.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So, help us with that. Subscribe, like, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell a friend. If you got a mama, daddy, son, daughter, father, whatever you got them, grab their phones and subscribe for the subscribe, and subscribe. But with that being said, man, guys, like always, see you this Saturday at the Shell against LAFC, and always hold it down for H Town. Let's go Dynamo. Let's go Dash. Let's go Dynados. Let's do it, guys.
Stay real, y'all.